Saying good morning, Martinique. The wind totally died at midnight last night, and I've just sat in the exact same place for the past 5 hours, sail slopping around trying to get some sleep. But now that it's late, I'm going to turn the engine on and motor on home, hopefully away from these icky storm clouds. My sail to Martinique took me 2 days and 2 nights at sea, leaving from Antigua. The first day out was absolutely gorgeous, and then that night it was really squally and really dark new moon night. So I was getting up every 20 minutes and kind of checking around for squalls. You can kind of tell where they are if you look at the stars, and then where it gets really dark, there's a good chance that that's where there is a squall. So I was up and down all night because I had to drop my head sail every time a squall rolled through because they were pretty significant, but only last about 10 minutes and then be gone. So I was up and down, up and down, up and down. And then the second day, same thing, beautiful sailing all day. And then right at midnight, I was rounding the northern corner of Martinique. I took the outside, the eastern side of the islands, because to get from Antigua to Martinique, you go past Guadeloupe and Dominica. And I took the eastern side because they have huge wind shadows on the western side. So even though it was a little bit longer, it was way faster. And so right as I'm rounding the headland, there's a little pass between Dominica and Martinique. The wind just completely died right around midnight, and I didn't want to turn the engine on because I don't have a way of steering when there's no wind and my engine is on. Plus I just desperately needed some sleep. So I just kind of sat there with slack sails and kept checking on my course. I was only a couple miles offshore, so that made me a little bit nervous, but I would just, I think the most I slept was probably 15 minutes that whole time. And then as soon as the sun rose, I turned on the engine and started motor sailing. But pretty much a couple hours after sunrise, the wind came back and was able to turn the engine off and keep sailing, which was really awesome. Once the wind picked up, it just kept picking up. And right as I was getting close to Fort de France, which is where I cleared in, this huge system hit with whiteout rain for 2 hours. I was steering in the cockpit, just totally drenched, or fresh-watered off, as I like to say. I hooked a bucket up underneath the boom because it has a hole in the end, and I collected 10 gallons of water just from the rain that came off the sail. And I would see these boats would just come out of nowhere, out of the whiteout. It was so crazy. So I cleared in to Fort de France today. I got in yesterday, but it was Ascension Day, which I guess means that everything is closed, so I wasn't able to clear in. So I just hung out on my boat and waited until this morning. Clearing into Martinique is just as easy as the other French islands. You go to the hardware store and there's a little computer in the back where you put in all of your information and print it out above the computer, bring that to the front desk and they stamp it and you're in. Fort de France is by far the biggest city that I've been in since the States, so I was totally overwhelmed walking around today. It's nuts. There's everything you could possibly want, and there's this big open fruit market where you can get fresh mangoes from the trees. So I left and I went to the other side of the bay, which is a lot less populated. So I just had the startle of a lifetime. I sailed to another bay and arrived in the evening, so I didn't have a chance to check how my anchor had set. And it wasn't really setting that great. It dragged a lot over the rocks before it kind of caught hold. So I went and I swam around, dove on the anchor, and found these massive moorings. Like, there was so much debris on the bottom, but I somehow managed to not hit any of it, which was awesome. And then I noticed this tiny little cute crab swimming around and kind of crawling on the bottom of my boat. And I was like, oh, crab, that's adorable. And then I looked over and holy shit, there was an entire sunken boat 50 feet from where my boat was anchored. And not only that, but this was the weirdest, swirliest anchorage. Like, I ended up, when I left and I was upping anchor, my boat was stern to my anchor chain and I couldn't spin it around really. So I was pulling up the anchor and my boat was actually moving backwards as the anchor was being pulled up. But it wasn't cutting underneath the boat, it was staying vertical. It was just super weird. And I'm not really sure if I went over that boat. I don't know if my keel would have touched it or not. But this boat was so crazy. I mean, it must have been one of the storm boats because it had all of the sails on it. And it was just sitting there. There's no way you could see it from above the water, but yep, right there it was. So that was a super crazy experience. and I'm just so glad that I didn't drop my anchor on that boat. It was so close, or run it over. I mean, I was kind of squiggling around when I was coming in looking for an anchorage. It's little things like that that sometimes make me go, because there's not really any way of knowing until it's too late. Makes you wonder what else is under the water there. So some of you guys have been asking to go into a little bit more detail about my safety equipment that I have on board, and I want to let you know that I am very concerned about my safety. So today I'm going to show you the contents of my ditch bag, which is something that everyone should have on their boat. It's a bag that you have in case your boat starts to sink, and it's got all the important things that you should grab as you're exiting your boat into your life raft. So I actually have 2 ditch bags, because there are a certain number of things that I want to bring with me that just wouldn't fit into one. So my first ditch bag, probably the most important one, I just have these little bottles of alcohol. There's some Pinnacle vodka, some Smirnoff vodka, and some Social House vodka. And these also can double as floats. Once you're done drinking, you just fill this up with air and you hold on to it, and it helps you stay above the water. The bag is good. If you start hyperventilating, you can breathe into it, and it kind of helps to calm you down. The second bag that I like to bring with me as a dish bag is shelled peanuts. These are an awesome snack. They're salty, so you don't have to worry about not getting enough salt while you're floating out there in your life raft. And the shells kind of can double as maybe bait that you could put on your fishing hooks. It also is a clothespin, so you can hang up your underwear to dry when you wash them. So just wanted to share this with you guys to let you know that I'm just as committed to safety as the next mariner. Okay, but in all seriousness, I do have a ditch bag, and these are some of the things that are in it. So I have emergency water. I throw this folder in, and it has my boat registration, passport, blah, 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 all the important documents. I have snacks, spare pair of glasses because I'm blind, seasick pills, fishing stuff, handheld GPS, a book so I don't get bored, this little hand-bearing compass with a knife thingy, 2 knife thingies, and then this waterproof bag that I also use when I'm on shore, but I kind of repack it when I go to sea. I also have a signal mirror. I throw in a little air horn thingy, mahoozle, sunscreen. I don't take any medication, so I don't have that. And I also have a little handheld VHF that is charged and gets thrown in there as well. So I'm not totally unsafe. I'm anchored in this really weird little bay on the north of the Fort de France Bay. It's super still. It's full of derelict boats, but it's got really good protection because there's been these crazy squalls that have been blowing through, and last night was so rough and uncomfortable. I figured I would just hole up here, and then tomorrow the weather is supposed to be better, so I'll take off. But I think it's going to be really hot tonight because there is not much of a breeze, but it's so flat. This is probably the flattest anchorage I've had since I was in, I don't know, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Usually they're a bit rolly, especially since I like to anchor towards the outside, but there isn't really anyone in this bay. It's pretty nice. I'm gonna go ashore and explore and throw out my trash, so, you know, it's another trash walk. Oh, love those. So, one of the things that is actually good about all this rain is that I'm able to collect water. So my boom has 2 holes in the end of it. When I have the sail up, all the water runs down the sail and then trickles along towards the end of the boom and then pours out of those 2 holes, which is right over your head when you're steering. But what I've done is I've been tying a 5-gallon bucket onto the boom underneath those holes so the rain fills it up. And in an hour-long severe rainstorm, I collected about 8 gallons of water. Some of it was good to drink, and so I poured it into my tanks, but one of the buckets was a little bit contaminated, so I've saved it, and I've been using it to rinse off after I go swimming in the saltwater, so I feel amazing. I'm fresh watered off for the past 2 showers that I've had. I'll just dip a little pot in there and kind of give myself a rinse, and it feels really awesome. So, it's not all bad with the rain. You just have to look for your tiny little silver linings. There are a lot of clouds, which means there are also a lot of silver linings. That's what I'm telling myself. I want to give a huge thank you to the Danish Grind Club. From the very beginning, you guys have been so amazing and kind and welcoming, and I am so happy that you found me and reached out to me. You guys have helped with doing things like sharing diagrams of the grind and rigging plans, and just the feeling of camaraderie that is really spreading from the Grind Club is palpable. And I hope that in turn, maybe you're learning from some of the dumb shit that I'm doing on my boat too. I just received, which way does this go? This Burgee, the Grind Burgee. And I'm so proud to have this and so excited to be able to fly it. Thank you guys so much for sending this to me. There's a periodical that comes out a couple times a year, and do you guys recognize this boat? This is the coolest thing ever! Really appreciate Martin taking the time to interview me and compile my poor quality iPhone pictures and make them actually printable in a magazine. This is in Danish, English, and German. And this is the little write-up they did. Wow, this is so cool. Thank you guys so much. So my time in Martinique has been spent doing millions and billions of boat projects. This is some of the stuff that I've been working on this week, and next week I will take you on a journey of even more boat projects. It's shipyard time. Woo! Okay, plan 2 or 3. Plan 3 for the Traveler. Giant bolts that are going to go all the way through it and then into the overhead. And then I have nylocks and fender washers. I'm gonna through bolt this sumbitch and then epoxy it into place, and it is not gonna go anywhere. If it does, it's ripping off the whole cabin top, and then I have way bigger problems. So I finally through bolted my Traveler. Check out this sweet through boltedness. Now the only thing I have to worry about is tearing my entire head off if I exit here too quickly. But don't worry, I have an idea in the making. I found an old broom handle lying in the trash on the side of the road and have cut it to size and then marked it so that I'll drill little holes in where each of the bolts will go and then just pop this bad boy up over those, paint it white. You'll never even know. Today I am fixing my lifelines, which have been super loose ever since I got my boat. So I've taken them off and measured them out, and the local marine store in Martinique does swaging, and they'll put new fittings on them. So I've tied them to my backpack so they don't fit inside of it. Now I'm really cool. It's so weird to see my little boat without lifelines. I also realized how ridiculous stanchions look when they have nothing attached to them. It's like, oh yeah, these are my fancy decorative boat spikes that I just have in case you happen to fall in this one very particular location or wish to impale yourself. Check out these bomber new lifelines though. They're amazing, they're tight. I can hold on to them when I fall and they'll actually support my weight. And the marine shop did an awesome job of them. I'm super stoked. Thank you for watching this week's video. I know I haven't been doing as much sailing this week, but it's kind of my time to lay up in Martinique and do some boat projects that I've been putting off for a really long time. So even though the videos are less exciting, I'm super stoked about all the projects that I'm getting done. Next week, you'll see me put the final finishing touches on my anchor chain locker and make it super bomb-tastic, professionally looking, watertight. Oh my god, there's a little fish right there. Ooh. I also fixed my companionway hatch and got the Traveler done. So this is like a little mini overhaul period for me. I have a ton of projects to work on, and Fort de France is the perfect place to hang out and do it because it's walking distance from the marine hardware store and pretty much anything else that I could possibly need. If you like my videos and want to see more, it really helps me if you subscribe and like, and I love reading all your nice little comments that you've been putting about your boat experiences and things that you're doing adventure wise with your life. I also have an Instagram account at @BoatLizard. If you want to follow me on there, I post more frequent updates. I have a Patreon account. It's Patreon/WindHippie. If you want to support me, I always appreciate that, but no pressure, obviously. Thank you to all my patrons who are supporting me. You guys are amazing. I love the conversations that I've been having with you, and you're really making a difference, like a super difference in my life. Like, it's crazy, and I'm so excited by what's going on with that. So thank you so very much. And I post new videos every Monday. My boat is majorly swimming away from me. I post new videos every Monday, so if you want to see my next one, just stay tuned in for then. You'll see me finally put this stupid anchor chain locker to rest, and for that I am so very excited. P.S. Here is the fish that was nudging up against my feet and attacking my camera. It's a territorial little trigger buddy. P.P.S. He just bit my toe while I was coming out of the water. I think he has decided that the bottom of my boat is his territory.